everyone, my name is Victoria. Welcome to today's Victoria's Parlor. Today I'm so honored to welcome a legendary leader. She's gone from walking the halls of Stanford and becoming a professor at Brown University, and also built a groundbreaking school in the Middle East, awarded the country's highest honor from the King of Jordan, King Hassan Medal, and now she's leading the Ethel Walker School, one of the top girls' schools in the United States, for nearly about 10 years now. Let's welcome this legendary leader, scholar, and global change maker, Dr. Meera Viswanathan. How are you, Ms. Vis?
I'm well. Thank you so much for inviting me into Victoria's Parlor. I'm looking forward to our discussion today.
Yes, me too. So, Ms. Vis, I know that you hold a Ph.D. at Stanford University, and also you had a tenure at Brown. And I know that you and Dr. Eric G. Whitmer, you guys co-founded the King's Academy, which is also, by the way, the first co-ed boarding school in the Middle East that offers financial aid. And I know that Kings of Jordan actually award you the country's highest honor, the King Hassan Medal. And everything just sounds so legendary. So my question for you is that what is the decisive moment that actually lead you to leave the tenure at Brown and actually accepts the invitation from King Abdullah's to build King's Academy in the Jordan Desert?
Thank you so much for that, Victoria. Actually, I didn't leave Brown. I took a 2-year leave of absence from Brown to help found the school. I actually left my tenured position at Brown for Walker's. And so I can tell you about why I did that as well. But what prompted me to take that 2-year leave of absence? And I think it was the extraordinary vision of the King of Jordan, His Majesty King Abdullah, his level of understanding about what it means to bring children of great privilege with children with backgrounds in which they may not have running water. And how do you create an environment in which they can all flourish and benefit from proximity to one another? So it was that challenge that excited me. It was also the idea of building an English medium school in another part of the world in which English is not the native language, and yet was not colonialist in nature. And that was tremendously exciting. So I think these are the kinds of things that for educators who like to dream about what should education be, this was a marvelous chance to try ideas out.
Since you've been the principals of the Ethel Walker School for nearly about 10 years now, I think you are really like a rare scholar entrepreneur leader among all the female principals, and especially under your guidance, I think Walker has really become a laboratory where young women translate their competence into influence locally, regionally, and globally. And I think everything is just so fascinating. So my question for you is that what really inspired you to dedicate yourself into girls' education and become the principal of Walker's?
Thank you. And by the way, I want to salute you, Victoria, because I love that, the idea that what we do here is translate competence into influence. And I think that that's a terrific notion. That's exactly your point that is happening here. What interested me about girls' education is that after having taught at Brown for over 30 years, I realized I could tell every year when my new students arrived which of my female students had gone to an all-girls school and which had gone to a secondary school that was coeducational. And I could tell this with about 90% accuracy within the first week of class. And this was simply through observation. And someone said to me, well, what was different? And I'll tell you, there were 3 things. The first is that those students had already learned how to function in a classroom setting. They were ready. There was no sort of inability to settle themselves. They were focused and ready to go. The second thing is they did not apologize before they spoke, and they persisted in argument. And those 2 things, not to preface your comments with, this is probably wrong, but I'm not sure about this, but instead, they just offered their perception, their observation. At the first time somebody produced an objection or a question, they didn't capitulate and say, oh, you're probably right. I guess I was wrong. Instead, they said, actually, look at page 22. What do you think of that comment? Have you read that correctly? And so I was fascinated by their confidence in presenting themselves. And finally, and this is perhaps the most important, they were comfortable in their own skin. And to feel comfortable in your skin is a quality I don't think I achieved until I was 50 years old. To see these young women, 18, 19, 20 years old, already having achieved that, it made me think, what does a girl's education do? And so that intrigued me, and then I visited Ethel Walker and began to understand. And the truth is that girls by the age of 12 or 13 are ready to undertake higher level learning, is what I believe.
Yes, and I truly agree what you said about persistent arguments. Like here at Walker's, a lot of the teachers and a lot of our classes are surrounded by how to really speak up and be persistent of our argument, of our idea, and to express ourselves. Especially, I think, under your leadership and influence. Like for me personally, like last year I created my own stand-up comedy club at Walker's. It is actually the first all-female comedians team in Connecticut and even across the country. I think it's really about like finding voices, like what I said, to be a voice, not an echo. And I'm so happy that a lot of like my peers are willing and very committed to really speak up and talk about their ideas and perspectives. And I know that you are a strong advocate of student voices, and I'm always very thankful for Ms. Viz like supporting me and really giving me so much advice on the stand-up comedy club. And so my question for you is that what most excites you about seeing all those students to create spaces like clubs on campus expressing themselves?
I love it when I see students playing against type. And when students, perhaps it's because I, who was born in South India, speaking the Tamil language, emigrated to the United States and then became a professor of classical Japanese literature and aesthetics and Old English and Middle English. It seems improbable. And I think it's that very improbability in a world in which increasingly we are controlled by algorithms that narrow our world, to see young people playing against type, doing the quirky, doing the random, trying things, to me is exhilarating.
This year I actually decided to host an open mic for all the students and faculties, and I'm really looking forward for you to also like to join and see the stand-up comedy club.
I think that's fantastic. And I will try to come up with something to offer as well. But I think that's the point. And the ability, particularly for young women, for girls, to dare to be funny, that is powerful. And I will tell you, a young woman who's understands humor and is willing to be funny publicly as a choice, as an act of deliberation, is a powerful young woman.